Hey, fellow Crotanas, and welcome back to the channel. I'm Copivian, and today is my top 10 episodes of Season 7 of Supernatural, and this was an interesting season. Without further ado, here are my top 10 favorite episodes from Season 7 of Supernatural. Number 10, Meet the New Boss. Castiel has officially went rogue. He has turned into the quote-unquote new god. But there might be a way around all of this. By binding death. Not so fast. That just makes him really, really unhappy and really pissed off. Seeing Castiel literally go so far off the rails that you almost wonder if there is a way back for Cass's character, or if he truly is going to be the main focus of this season. But Purgatory has some secrets up its sleeve that nobody had ever known about beforehand. The Leviathans. This episode introduces Leviathans in a very interesting way in terms of Supernatural. It was a explosive episode that would literally set the pace for the rest of the season. But near the end, he kind of realizes that something's really, really wrong, and he doesn't know what, and he has no other place to turn but Sam and Dean. And they end up helping him in the end to try and release all the souls. Unfortunately, it doesn't go to plan. Number 9, Season 7, Time for a Wedding. Well, yes, indeed, time for a wedding. Becky finds out about a love potion that she can inflict Sam with, and sure enough, she does just that. And of course, that means it's time to get engaged. That's the ring finger, not the other finger, by the way. But yeah, this episode was mainly because Becky was kind of the main focus of the whole thing and was really the main kind of villainistic push throughout the episode, because the choices that she makes are very selfish and very for herself, as we have seen from other bads in Supernatural before. Obviously, they're not going to kill Becky in the end. No. They just have to break the love spell and the love potion spell and end up setting things right and making sure that Becky gets on the right path in a better way than just bondaging Sam to her bed and continuously feeding him a love potion to make sure that he always stays oogly-eyed for Becky. A crazy episode, an absolutely out there episode, and really throws you for a loop, but it's entertaining and fun nonetheless. Number 8, Defending Your Life. After a very hard decision for Dean to make in the previous episode of this one, Dean is feeling really, really guilty. He is trying to come with terms on a lot of his decision making that he's had to make, especially recently with killing a monster that was supposedly going to stay on the rails. But of course, he didn't trust Sam, and he didn't trust her to stay on the rails either, because it brings in the Egyptian god Osiris. And I have always had an interest in Egyptian mythology and lore, and it's really always fascinating when it gets introduced into a show like Supernatural, because you don't know how they're going to utilize it. But again, this show is trustworthy in the fact that you can always trust that they're going to utilize the lore pretty damn properly. See Joe come back and as a ghost, of course, but during the trial of Dean, Sam becomes his lawyer and is trying to get the scales weighed in Dean's favor. Well, unfortunately, there's just too much guilt in Dean's heart over very recent things, and also things that go back dating to Joe. And he's just guilty with all the stuff that he's had to deal with. But luckily, there is always a way for Sam to save Dean in the end. Number 7, time after time after time. Well, we bring in the good old Elliot Ness, who just so happens to also be a hunter. And Dean travels back in time once again. I swear, Dean went back in time more than any character in the show. The fact that you bring in the so-called one of the greatest detectives of all time, Elliot Ness, who also turns out to be a hunter in the end, is it just takes it through the roof. It takes it from 0 to 100 real quick. And of course, Dean having to go through the motions of proving he's from the future and then all this other stuff, and Elliot Ness not believing him, and it's another one of those crazy episodes that you have to go on the winding turns in order to get to that great finish of the episode, and it's just an awesome episode. Number 6, The Girl Next Door. Well, here we are. This is one of the episodes that causes Dean a lot of guilt for our episode that I just covered a little bit ago in Defending Your Life. This episode, The Girl Next Door, we actually get a flashback to Sam Winchester's childhood, teenagehood, actually, and it surrounds around a girl that he met as a teen that was also a monster. Get this, a kitsune. Not this kitsune, a more evil kind of kitsune. Kind of a tough episode, too, because you understand where Dean's coming from, but at the same time, you can understand where Sam's coming from. He trusts her to not kill. He trusts her to not do anything because he believes she's on the right path. She's a mortician. She just takes pituitary glands from those who have already been deceased, and she's not actually killing anybody. So it's this big mishmash of various things again that takes Sam back to his childhood and makes him remember what was going on around this time when Dean and John were on a hunt for the kitsune, and the mom comes in, daughter saves him, Sam owes her his life, and that is a big piece of the episode and a big piece of why Sam wants to let the girl go. And it's such a what would you do in that situation kind of episode. Number 5, Shut Up, Dr. Phil. Well, finally, we got some Buffy fame in the house. James Marsters and Charisma Carpenter from Buffy. This was such a fun and interesting episode within this crazy season 7 that it really just grounds it pretty fast. And the fact that those two are actually a married or a witch couple that are kind of in a marital spat, as it were, and Dean and Sam basically have to, Sam basically has to play couples therapy doctor for a little bit to try and talk sense into them and just say that if you just talk to each other, you'd realize this, that you can trust each other, that you can talk to each other. All you need to do is talk to each other, which is very, very true. When I first saw this episode, all I could kept thinking was Buffy and Supernatural, Buffy and Supernatural, Buffy and Supernatural. It's finally happened. We're here. Buffy and Supernatural are right here. They've met, they've clashed, and they're mixing. Number 4, Plucky Pennywhistle's Magical Menagerie. Well, we're back with Sam and Clowns again. Crazy episode, funny episode. Just I can't say anything more about this episode than it is wild, and you just have to sit down and watch it, because if you haven't seen this particular episode of Supernatural, you need to see it. You need to fast forward through your binge to see this episode, because it's really, really kind of crazy and wild. Dean does get a slinky out of the deal, so aces. Number 3, Survival of the Fittest. The season finale has finally come. What will happen when Dean and Castiel especially have to face off with Dick Roman, the head of the Leviathans and man behind wanting to turn people into Lunchables? More or less. An ending that you never would have expected in Supernatural. This was a case where Sam, Dean, and Castiel, along with Meg, are all having to now team up and battle against the thing that Cass let out in the first place. Cass does get redemption, but he's powered down greatly by this point in the season. And that was actually a really interesting dynamic of this season, which was actually very unexpected. They finally get to face off with Dick Roman and also find their way into purgatory. Crazy, crazy season finale, but it was actually a really great season finale nonetheless. Number 2, Party on Garth. Garth is upon us. Love that character. He's such, DJ Qualls brought so much to Supernatural as it was already, but in a season where we would lose a major character to Sam and Dean's characters, it was a great little pick-me-up when Garth came into the fold. This episode, though, having Sam, Dean, and Garth on a hunt for an invisible ghost killer that you can only see when you're slizzard, essentially, when you're drunk off your ass, is so great, and so much happens in the end of this episode that is just like, oh boy, that hangover is going to be really nasty in the morning. And the fact that this is a shoujo, a Japanese ghost, that is the cause of all of the happenings in this episode is actually really great. Like I've said before, I've always loved when they go outside of just the North American lore and go outside to the world lore and pull it in and still utilize it to what it is over in the other parts of the world, but still tweak it to their own needs. And number 1, Death's Door. This was a hard episode because Bobby gets shot on a mission to try and stop the Leviathans from leaking out their little chemical warfare against humanity and poisoning all of Dean's favorite foods. But in the end, this episode was so cool to see Bobby's life through his eyes and having to feel the need to push and try and get back to Sam and Dean and be there for them more in this battle against the Leviathans. He wants to be there so bad for him. You get to see Rufus again, and it's just such a great episode. You see a little bit more of Bobby's life, the abusiveness of his father, just everything that made Bobby's character Bobby was such a great piece to each side of this episode. And it was the hardest episode of season 7 by far, but it will always be, for me, the most memorable from season 7. Well, guys, that is my top 10. favorite episodes from season 7 of Supernatural. I thank you all so much for watching. Always remember to imagine your dream, create your happiness, and live your life on the edge. And I will see you in that next episode. See ya.